Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our weekly multimodal assembly for Sunday, April 10th, 2022. There is some excitement in this building. I don't know if you can feel it, but there are young ones among us again. RE is back. Our religious education program is back in the building, and we are glad to see your faces. Whether this is one of your first visits or you've been with us many times, we are so glad that you are here as a part of our gathered assembly. If you're online, if you're in person in the building, we are all part of one congregation. If you are online, please make use of the chat feature to check in with each other. For those of you in the building, we hope you will join us downstairs in the lower assembly hall for coffee and cookies after the service. Please be sure and stop by the Active Voices tables for advocacy postcards. We are helping to stabilize childcare in Minnesota, and these go to your elected representatives. Also at the Active Voices table, you can sign up for our tree planting event that's happening this spring. Our climate justice team has identified some areas in the Twin Cities that need tree cover, and so you can sign up for an opportunity to do that. It's a great project to do with families. Marianne Lundquist back there, Raise the One Good Arm, is really helping us get everything done with that. So for Marianne and all the other people who are working on it, thank you. Here are a few items of note. If you're new here and you want to learn more about FUS and our pathway to membership, you can join our Welcome to FUS session at noon today, either in my office or online. And the online link will be put in the chat. This event repeats on the second Sunday of every month, and so we welcome newcomers to that. Today, our men's group, which meets at noon, will meet only online, not in person, and the link for that will be in the chat. The next 2 Sundays will be extra special. Next week, April 17th, is our Earth Day service, and following assembly, folks in the building will leave the assembly hall. We will recess out together with puppets and banners. We'll walk across the street to Thomas Lowry Park for a brief water ritual followed by refreshments and climate information. So we hope you'll make a plan to do that. Our young ones will be joining us at the end of assembly, so they'll go out with us for that. And the following Sunday, April 24th, will be the Foti farewell. Our goodbye to Assistant Minister Jim Foti. Let's all hear it. Come on, give me a big whine. Well, I wanted to hear the big whine. There was a big whine that was going on. Aww. Jim, I know you're going to watch this, and so that was for you. We'll have music and cake and sweet and funny stories. So if we have to say goodbye, we're going to make it a good one on April 24th. Our theme for this month is awakening. And these are the words of UU Minister Suzelle Lynch. The fire of love burning deep in every human heart calls us to awaken. Awaken to the work of justice, awaken to the work of compassion, awaken to the work of community. For in this time of human suffering and exaltation, we are called beyond awakening into action. Come, let us gather in community.
ending, sort of beginning. Never took a chance, never made a stand. A solipsistic sort of existence. Then the evening came, and so did the rain. The water came right up to meet you. Now you're staying in, you're leveling and facing facts. Your luck is changing now, and you don't know what to say. Well, you got nothing to say. Got nothing to say. I bet he whispers so sweetly. Just because he's got your ear, don't mean he's got your back. You got an angel on your shoulder. I bet he whispers so sweetly. But just because he's got your ear, don't mean he's got your back.
How about Eric Mason on the keys and songwriting and vocals, and we were also joined by Toby Ramaswamy. We're going to hear a bunch of Eric's original music today. I think we played a show in like 2017, so this is sort of a reunion. They usually play just as a duo, so. And I'm Ted Olson, the interim music director. And yeah, really glad. I think Eric's lyrics are great and fit today's theme really nicely.
Thank you.
Each week we begin our assembly with lighting our chalice and usually have one of our Aspirations. Today we light this, remembering the third aspiration, to make the change we need for a more just, compassionate, and peaceful world. And we are going to sing today. Yay, singing! We're going to use number 38 in our gray songbook, Morning Has Broken. And so if you will stand as you're able and wish to do so, we will sing out. And also the lyrics will be up here. But if you want to read the music, as some of you do, it's there. Please. For our covenant.
Exactly. We are trying to get back into the way we used to do things, and so the disjunction between how we have been and how we were, so we're getting there. So yes, standing for the covenant, and if you will repeat with me, please. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated.
So, we have not done in-person time for all ages for years. So long that some of you don't even remember it. So long that some of you were never here when we did it before. We are so glad to see all the faces in our assembly hall today. Now, young ones, we often, back in the old days, when people came to gather together and didn't have to wear masks on their faces, we used to call you up here to the front. And probably in the weeks to come, we will call you up here to the front again for a story or just a conversation or ask some questions or something. For today, you're just going to stay right where you are. And I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be together in a congregation. So some of you go to school. Some of you may do school at home. Some of you may go to play soccer or another sport with other people. You may have other places that you hang out with friends. But there's something very special about a congregation. We come together because we share a particular way that we think, right? We share what we call values, the things that we think are most important. Fairness. What are some other values that we share? Just anybody, call them out. What are some of the values that we share? Justice. Tolerance. Honesty. compassion, lucidity. Whoa. Inclusivity. Both good words. I like lucidity too. We think it's really important to tell the truth, so we come here together and we try to tell the truth to each other. We think it's really important to know when each other is feeling well and when we're not feeling well, so we can take care of each other when we don't feel so great, and we can celebrate with each other when something good happens. We come together here to get to know each other and to allow ourselves to be known by someone outside of our family. Our family is so important, and we want to be known even more broadly than that, to know other people and let them know us. So young ones, middling ones, older ones, all of the ones. We are so glad, all of the ones online, we are so glad that we are all here together, and through these years and years that it's taken us to come back, we are a strong, loving, beloved, justice-focused, compassionate congregation. And it takes all of us, including and especially our young ones, to make us that congregation. Yes. Okay, young ones, now we sing a song and we sing you out to your class. So if you're going to an RE class, we're going to sing you out. Let's do it.
In 1881, the founders of First Unitarian Society stated their purpose: to form an association where people, without regard to theological differences, may unite for mutual helpfulness in intellectual, moral, and religious culture and humane work. Thanks to the generosity and time, talent, and treasure of our members and friends, we continue that vision today, promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice in a congregational humanist community that is democratically governed and self-supporting. Help support our unique mission by giving today at our website, through PayPal, or the new Vanco mobile app. Thank you.
Each week, when we gather, we take a few moments to reflect on the joys, the sorrows, and the milestones of the human experience. We do this so that we stay in touch with our own humanity. We do this to remind ourselves of the value of a moment of stillness, and we do this so that no one among us is alone, either in celebrating joy or in facing the burdens of life. This morning, we hold in our thoughts FUS member Jane Graves, whose father, Don Graves, died on Thursday at the age of 88. Jane says her dad, who lived in Racine, Wisconsin, made the most of a long retirement of nearly 30 years and got to enjoy his favorite pastimes, golf and bowling. Jane says that she will miss that no matter where they went together, her father always ran into someone he knew. Don will be missed by many, and we extend our condolences to Jane and her family during this time of grief and remembrance. We also think of FUS office manager Kate Goodrich, whose mother, Joy Robbins, died on Monday at the age of 82. Kate says that Joy's whole life was enriched by music, from her vocal and piano performance to her choral directing for more than 50 years. She was committed to music ministry. Joy also taught middle school and high school English and Shakopee for many years, and later taught teachers seeking master's degrees at St. Mary's University. Joy loved her children and grandchildren and is dearly missed by her family, friends, church, and community. And each day, each of us thinks of and holds a tender place in our hearts for the people of Ukraine. The reason the carnage feels too much to bear is that it is too much to bear. It is so difficult to witness, and in our awakening, we bear witness. We now take a moment of silence to reflect on the challenges and heartbreak going on in our lives and across the world. And we think with gratitude of those who are living lives of justice, service, and compassion. Let's now share a moment of silence. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
Up at the peaks, we hide and seek. An old mystique showed up and made a scene. Shrouded in shadow, carrying cargo, which in a word puts you behind the scenes, where the deck gets reshuffled and there's no such thing as triviality. 'Cause up at the peaks, I see for weeks, and my mind is a tangled mess of time. Day follows night, like the flapping of a great black wing. Oh, my eyes, my tiny heart, the immortality of our machines. A ne'er-do-well stands between reality and me. A Gnostic hell, atom by atom, in excruciating detail. to the ground, and I am downloading. I am nailed to the ground, disassembling. Why do we fear the authenticity of life? Push it away, reflexively retreat from complexity. We build up walls, overstress, overwork, and overdress. Neocortex, the rear view mirror can't help you with what's coming next. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the music today. Wonderful, wonderful. A reading this morning from a novel called Dawn by Octavia Butler. This is the first chapter. Alive, still alive, alive again. Awakening was hard as always. The ultimate disappointment. It was a struggle to take in enough air to drive off nightmare sensations of asphyxiation. Lilith Yapo lay gasping, shaking with the force of her effort. Her heart beat too fast, too loud. She curled around it, fetal, perhaps helpless. Circulation began to return to her arms and legs in flurries of minute, exquisite pains. When her body calmed and became reconciled to reanimation, she looked around. The room seemed dimly lit, though she had never awakened to dimness before. She corrected her thinking. The room did not only seem dim, it was dim. At an earlier awakening, she had decided that reality was whatever happened, whatever she perceived. It had occurred to her, how many times, that she might be insane or drugged, physically ill or injured. None of that mattered. It could not matter while she was confined this way, kept helpless, alone, and ignorant. Science fiction as a literary genre is unique in how authors go about exploring and reimagining our reality right here and right now. Octavia Butler changed science fiction forever by bringing a black feminist critique into her stories. She is credited with forging the way to what is nowadays known as Afrofuturism, an aesthetic that mixes science, philosophy, history, science fiction, and fantasy in order to explore difficult subjects such as the effects of colonialism and the African diaspora in its many incarnations. The reading this morning is the opening of the first novel of a trilogy titled Lilith's Brood. In that trilogy, Octavia Butler explores the diaspora experience of an African American woman and her offspring. In the books, the human race has been nearly destroyed by what Butler calls a, quote, fatal combination of intelligence and hierarchical tendencies, end quote. I think you will agree that that statement alone summarizes a great deal of what is wrong with colonialism, a fatal combination of intelligence and hierarchical tendencies. The protagonist in the first novel, Lilith, finds herself controlled by an alien race. She awakens to find that she knows almost nothing of what has already happened to her, but she knows that she keeps waking up to another day of imprisonment. Butler writes, quote, at an earlier awakening, she had decided that reality was whatever happened, end quote. Butler turns the character's experience into a metaphor
for the African American experience. Quote, "It had occurred to her how many times that she might be insane or drugged, physically ill or injured. None of that mattered. It could not matter while she was confined this way, kept helpless, alone, and ignorant." End quote. Seemingly endlessly, the character finds herself incarcerated and subjected to oppressors that she only dimly recognizes. The novel is titled Dawn, and dawn for Lilith means awakening to yet another day of oppression. We got to hear a similar idea expressed just this week at the White House on Friday by Ketanji Brown Jackson when she said, quote, "It has taken 232 years and 115 prior appointments for a black woman to be selected to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States," end quote. That's a lot of mornings to wake up to the same old, same old. By the way, Lilith's mantra by the end of the novel is learn and run, which I'll come back to. In Lilith's Brood, Octavia Butler is exploring a trope that we all know, endless recurrence. In American popular culture, probably the best known use of the trope is the movie Groundhog Day. As the protagonist in the film says, well, what if there is no tomorrow? There wasn't one today. The Lilith's Brood trilogy was published previous to the appearance of the movie Groundhog Day, and the trope is considerably older than that. One source is the Asian understanding of reincarnation. We're on the wheel of samsara, life in this world, and we have the opportunity to refine ourselves in this incarnation. This does describe the plot of Groundhog Day, in which a surly, cynical weather guy slowly gets out of his own head. In Octavia's Butler's fictional world, however, there is very little chance that things are going to get better for Lilith. Her only option is survival. Now, most of us are not caught in an endlessly recurring plot. At least we're not in a book or a movie anyway. However, the 19th century German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche thought that thinking about eternal recurrence helps us find our own worldview and refine how we wish to face life. Ecce Homo, How One Becomes What One Is a book that Nietzsche wrote, and in it he said this: what if someday or night a demon were to steal into your loneliest loneliness and say to you, this life as you now live and have lived it, you will have to live once again and innumerable times again, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy and every thought and sigh and everything unspeakably small or great in your life must return to you, all in the same succession and sequence. Even this spider and this moonlight between the trees, and even this moment, and even I myself. Now, unlike Lilith's Brood or Groundhog Day, Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence has no tomorrow. It is endless, and there is no way out of the wheel of samsara, and there's no way to reboot your life. Nietzsche imagines us in the moment, right now, forever. Now, why does he close off his account of recurrence? Well, to emphasize the power of acting in this moment. Now is the time you can act differently than before, the now. For Nietzsche, there are no do-overs, no second chances. None of us will ever pass this way again. All this to underline his view of human reality and how to develop an attitude of acceptance and appreciation rather than a drive to control. At home in the here and now, as FUS aspirations would have it. Right now, what is the right thing to do? What's the right way to live on this planet right now? And of course, that's not an academic question. It's how we clarify our values and our purpose in life. But wait, in Nietzsche's conception of eternal recurrence, he assumes a blank slate for the past. The past is gone, long time ago. Forget about your past and act now, now, now. But Octavia Butler's character Lilith, even though she only dimly remembers a past, is trapped exactly because of what happened in the past. Even though she had no agency at all to change anything, and even though the past is not her fault. Lilith is paying for other people's mistakes and misdeeds. That is a large part of her now, just as in the case of our new Supreme Court Justice. The fact that Nietzsche could imagine a historical now is telling. It's ahistorical in his way of thinking. It tells us that Europe's colonial past is largely irrelevant to Nietzsche in his thinking because he thought it could be ignored. Just as many Euro-American people today dismiss talk of restitution for enslavement and colonialism by saying, it was a long time ago and it wasn't me. Now, actually, it's unfair to Nietzsche to imply that he did not see each of us as a product of our social assumptions, even though in the case of this concept of eternal recurrence, he did leave that part out. In point of fact, he was one of the first people to see human beings as bound inextricably to social conventions. The title of one of his books is usually translated into English as The Genealogy of Morals. Morality can be traced, he taught us. Ideas have a family tree, and they are created by social forces, as are we. Nietzsche thought, for example, that Christianity had functioned socially to create subservient people. He saw his philosophy as an antidote to that. However, the point I'm making is that European whiteness, exactly because it has been the dominant social construct in Europe and its many colonies, can pretend to have no past because it's so huge. Can pretend that the society we find ourselves living in is not a very human creation, but it is. We see a powerful example of this way of thinking in the present suffering in Ukraine. Yes, it's easy for many of us to see good guys and bad guys in this current situation. But the war in Ukraine comes down to a war of ideas, actually, with a very long genealogy, as Nietzsche would call it. A genealogy of empires, of religions, of East versus West, past warfare, concepts of government, concepts of just and unjust ways of making war, and on and on and on. Yes, the killing is a social construct. Octavia Butler's characters cannot avoid their historical circumstances, but they can refuse to be victims of their historical circumstances. That insight is why younger women of color nowadays use the trilogy's title, Lilith's Brood, to describe themselves. Afrocentrism is a way of looking the past squarely in the face and then seeing a different sort of future from the one imagined and dictated by Euro whiteness. Butler's original name for the trilogy, by the way, was not Lilith's Brood, but rather exogenesis. All right, xeno, that nice Greek word there, xeno as in xenophobia, as in foreigner, right, or alien. In this case, black women were used by aliens, foreigners, as a sexual commodity to bear a new race of creatures. Sounds kind of like American history, doesn't it? Xenogenesis was exactly what was forced on many enslaved African women. But back to Groundhog Day. Danny Rubin wrote the original screenplay for Groundhog Day. The movie got lackluster reviews when it came out back in 1991, I think it was. It has since become a cultural phenomenon, however, as we all know. The movie's used to teach Buddhist precepts. It's even used to talk about the cycle of substance abuse. And many dissertations for PhDs in philosophy have been written about Groundhog Day and Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence, if you want to go back and get another PhD or so. By the way, when he wrote the script, Reuben had never read Nietzsche or Octavia Butler. In showbiz parlance, Reuben is a one-hit wonder. He sold the rights to Groundhog Day in the early 1990s, and he hasn't sold much since that time. The thing is, he sold almost all of the rights, but he did hold on to a musical, because who would make a musical out of that movie, right? Well, he has sold a few other things, but in Hollywood, some of you know, they change things so much you don't even recognize your own idea. One of the few intellectual property rights was that musical thing, and interestingly enough, isn't Mr. Reuben caught in a Groundhog Day sort of thing. All he gets to think about for the rest of his life is profiting off Groundhog Day. So, where are you and me on this map of recurrences? Think about it. Are you in Octavia Butler's post-apocalyptic world of oppression and survival? Are you in the Groundhog Day loop of cynicism about work and relationships and life in general? Are you in Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, in the moment and structuring your life in full knowledge that this is the only one and the only chance? Or a little of all of those? There is a common element in all of these imaginings besides recurrence. Each scenario is about taking responsibility and using what little often your personal power is. The taking personal responsibility part is why Groundhog Day is shown to people locked in the cycle of substance abuse. It feels as if there's no way out, but there is, first by realizing that the cycle of addiction looks like this, and you can stop it. The taking personal responsibility part is why a generation of young writers of color call themselves Lilith's brood. The taking personal responsibility part is why Friedrich Nietzsche's eternal recurrence thought experiment is discussed and imagined more than a century after he thought of it. You, me, whatever our circumstances, we can grab the present moment and wrestle a better outcome out of the circumstances. That's what they're all saying. As I mentioned earlier, the mantra that Octavia Butler gives to Lilith, learn and run, is at first glance a dire warning. Learn and run. But the mantra can also be a call to action, and it becomes that in the novels. Learn and run. Learn quickly and get to work now. This has often been the advice of those who have thought deeply about life. Here's a passage from the philosopher Epictetus, written 2,000 years ago. He says this: how long are you planning to wait to demand the best of yourself? How long will you act without reason? You know the principles. So what kind of teacher are you waiting for? What is your excuse for delay? You aren't a child anymore. You neglect, you procrastinate, you laze around, you say, I'll start next week, next month, sometime. And so you go on doing nothing, living and dying like the majority. Think, now, right now, is the time to grow up. He goes on, consider your principles as if they are laws. Pleasure, accomplishment, embarrassment, everything is an opportunity for practice. The Olympics are now, he says. They cannot be postponed. This is a challenge to be lost or won, end quote. 2,000 years ago, but it sounds pretty like us today. As you see, there are several smart, creative people saying very much the same thing, which is get to work right now. They challenge us to be our best selves right now. Epictetus said it plainly, how long are you planning to wait to demand the best of yourself? End quote. And yeah, whether you are a weather person from Pittsburgh, a hermit philosopher, incarcerated, or stuck in whatever way, the wisdom is clear. It is not too late. Start now, learn, and run.
Well, we're all going to sing. And you know this song, and I think we're going to put the lyrics up here. So stand up if you want to. Let's do it. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Oh, yes, I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. You can move too. Look all around, there's nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Here is a rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
All right.
yes.
Thanks a lot. Good work
Yes,
there.
that's
Good work. Yeah. Well, please be seated. We will extinguish our chalice and then hear one more song. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
I am half black, hop sack Thank you very much.
Marvelous, marvelous. Thanks so much for being here today and sharing your music with us. Thanks to all of you for being here online or in the building. If you're in the building, please feel free to come on downstairs. We have some things to do with our Active Voices group, some ways to do good in the world, and also we have coffee and cookies. And let's reflect this week on Octavia Butler's words, learn and run. So may it be.